Billy Mitchell has been trying to get a youth group going at the Wildwood True Bible Church of Jesus Christ non-affiliated for a couple of years now. It's been slow going. Part of the problem is there are only about 3 youth who ever come when he announces his meetings. And only one of them comes regularly. And the 3 of them have very little in common. There's Avery Dickinson IV. He's 14, going on about 12. He's in the process of being raised right, so he's almost always at youth group. He's very agreeable. He never causes trouble. He's careful to say sir and ma'am and thank you and please. And most of what he says at youth group sounds like what his mother would say if she came to youth group. And there's Jean Hope Johnson. She's 19 going on 30. She would be too old for youth group, except she's a junior in high school. She lives out in the country with her mama and wears clothes that it's clear her older brothers and sisters used to wear, and her mama keeps them patched up. And then there's Miles Barlow. Now, Miles is 15. He's had a hard time lately. Actually, he ran away from home for a while. When he finally came back, his father didn't kill him after all, but gave him the only hug he'd given him in years, and then laid down the law to him. And part of the law included going to church. So Miles comes to youth group whenever he can't get out of it. All 3 of them were there recently when Pastor Billy announced there would be pizza and soft drinks. What he didn't announce, but had been planning to do for a long time, was he was going to have his first really serious discussion with these young people about their spiritual lives. He knew it was going to be important how he opened the conversation. He wanted to start with an easy question, but not one about sports or the weather, something that would start them sort of talking about their spiritual lives without realizing that's what they were doing. And so he thought it over, and he decided a good, sort of safe, opening question would be, what did they think of worship at the Wildwood True Bible Church of Jesus Christ non-affiliated? They gathered that evening for pizza and soft drinks, and after an appropriate time, he asked his question. "Tell me," he said, "what do you think of worship here at the church?" Soon as he said it, he realized it might not be as easy a question as he thought it would be. It kind of hung there in the air along with the smell of cheese and pepperoni. And all 3 children reached for another slice of pizza and stuffed those slices in their mouths as quickly as possible. There was a lot of chewing going on, and finally Pastor Billy turned to Miles. He thought he had been developing a pretty good relationship with Miles since Miles had come back from running away. He said, "Miles, what do you think of worship here at the church?" Miles turned kind of red and struggled to swallow the mouthful of pizza he had going, and he washed it down with a long drink of soft drink, and then he kind of licked his teeth, and finally he looked at the center of the table and he said, "Well, it's pretty boring." Avery and Jean Hope seemed to nod their agreement, though it was hard to tell if they were nodding or chewing, but Pastor Billy took it for nodding. Now, on the outside, Pastor Billy looked cool and calm. He looked pleased that they would be so honest with him, but inside his heart was sinking. Boring, he thought. They think I'm boring. How can they think I'm boring when every Sunday I preach them to the very brink of hell and back? How can that be boring? Presbyterians can be boring, but how can hell be boring? How can it be boring to face your own destruction and then be shown the way out? When he got home that night, his wife Ruth asked him how youth group went. Fine, he said. They were all there. What did you talk about? She asked. And he said, some TV program called The Simpsons, I think, which is what they had talked about after Miles told him what he thought of worship. The next Sunday, Pastor Billy turned up the microphone on the pulpit, which he did not need to do because he also turned up the volume of his voice. And he preached them to the very brink of hell so they could smell the sulfur. And he kept them there about 15 minutes before he finally, reluctantly, preached them back. He thought of leaving them there for a week, thought it might be good for them, but he didn't. Afterwards, on their way out of church that day, several members said Pastor Billy sounded unusually inspired. But Miles Barlow wasn't there.